Ladies and gentlemen, we take pride in presenting a thoughtful address by Griffin Voorhees. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Voorhees.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you and good evening. The sponsor has been identified, but unlike most programs, the performer has not been provided with a script. As a matter of fact, I have been permitted to choose my own words and discuss my own ideas regarding the choice we face in the next few weeks. I have spent most of my life as a Republican. I have recently seen a shift in policy from the once grand old party, the party of Robert Taft, Barry Goldwater, and Ronald Reagan, down the road under the banners of Giuliani, McCain, and Schwarzenegger. I have found there to be very few leaders left in the Republican Party that represent our core conservative beliefs. I believe that the issues confronting us at this time may cross party lines. This is not a simple matter of selecting our next Republican governor. I believe there is only one candidate who is fit to be the leader of our free and sovereign state. Right now, Pennsylvania ranks near the top in joblessness as a result of our poor economy. Businesses are packing their bags and moving out of state because of our unfriendly business climate. Our children, the very future of our country, our nation, are getting the shaft by our failing public education system because most parents are prevented from getting involved in their children's education. Our state sovereignty is being watered down by an oppressive, tyrannical federal government. I believe there is only one candidate who will restore our constitutional republic. One candidate who will bring back fiscal responsibility to state government. One candidate who will draw a line in the sand and say to our federal government with manly firmness, this is a point beyond which you must not advance. To me, the choice is clear. I think we're for telling our poverty-stricken citizens that no one in this state should be denied medical care due to a lack of funds. But I also think that we're against forcing all citizens, regardless of need, into a compulsory government program. Now, both sides of this campaign are claiming to stand up to the federal government and stop them from forcing our state into a nationalized health care so-called service. But I am not convinced that both sides will, especially when we have examples as Representative Rohrer, who was the only candidate who stood up to the federal government when they tried to pass the Real ID Act of 2005. Anytime you and I question the policy or remarks of another Republican, we are denounced as being against their noble cause. They say we're always manipulating their words. We're never honest about anything. Attorney General Tom Corbett last week has charged that Sam Rohrer is a desperate candidate who is falling behind in the polls. Corbett said that Sam Rohrer has begun running an attack ad on his webpage that is carefully edited to play only a few words of a larger speech I gave regarding the importance of protecting the Constitution. This careful editing was used to twist and manipulate the true meaning of my remarks. Well, I suspect that if he wasn't an attorney, you could probably trust what he was saying. But if you look into it any further, you will find that Rohrer's camp video reaction to Corbett's absurd remarks on our Constitution does not play any clips of Corbett's speech. The video is simply a still frame of Representative Rohrer respectfully disagreeing with his opponent on all accounts. But the Attorney General is not the only person who has criticized Rohrer in this instance. Just last week, Pennsylvania Republican Party Chairman Rod Gleason said of Rohrer, so much for Reagan's 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican. Well, he should do his homework a little better because he'll find out that Reagan made that statement in 1964 in reaction to the liberal Republican Nelson Rockefeller, who was attacking Mr. Conservative himself, Barry Goldwater, on the basis of being an extremist. He'll also find that Reagan never meant for that slogan to mean that fellow Republicans could not be critical of other Republicans when the Republicans being criticized were advocating liberalism. The trouble with our neocon friends here is not that they are ignorant, it's just that they know so much that isn't so. But seriously, regardless of the excuses that have been made to justify this statement, it does not change the fact that the Attorney General, Tom Corbett, has said once in Harrisburg and again in Pittsburgh that our Constitution is a living document. And Gleason has referred to Corbett as the right choice for Pennsylvania, and he continued in saying, I hope you join me in supporting him on May 18th. Well, I, for one, resent it when a fellow Republican refers to the Constitution as a living document. 2004 Libertarian candidate Michael Badnarik has said, "The sole purpose of the Constitution is to protect our individual rights and property. Anyone who tries to tell you that the Constitution is a living document, which is old and outdated, is trying to convince you that you don't have individual rights and that the government is authorized to take your property to support the greater good." This is the very thing our founding fathers sought to minimize. They knew that our Constitution wasn't meant to be a document that could be altered for light and transient causes. They knew that the constitutional republic that they established was a fragile thing and that tyrants would try to amend it by the vote of the majority, which is why our founding fathers despised democracy. They went as far as to calling it tyranny of the majority. Thomas Jefferson once said, "A democracy is nothing more than mob rule, when 51% of the people may vote away the rights of the other 49. Now we have no better example of this than the government's involvement in taking citizens' private property by the misuse of eminent domain. A few years back, a local farmer in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, nearly lost his property because the government believed they had a better use for the land. They wanted to take his property, pave over the fields, and put up a Walmart. They could have at least made it worth it and given us a Target. Of course, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that building a Target is a proper use of eminent domain. Their scheme was fortunately shut down by the vote of a generous majority. But what if the majority decided that it would have been better off for them to have a Walmart than this citizens' field? They could have and would have gotten their way because the government owns this man's property in allodial title. Most every Pennsylvanian falsely believes that they own their property. We have paid our mortgages in full, but we don't own a square foot. The state and federal government own the actual deeds to our property. Any man paying property taxes does not own the land that he owns the way that he thinks he does. They are simply renting it from the government, and the rent goes up every couple of years. Not too long ago, I spoke with a woman who told me that she lived in the same house for over 20 years. She and her husband had paid off their house years ago, but every year she has to pay the government to get their permission to stay there, yet another